Hi, my name is Kevin Thomas, W1DED, and this is Q5 Worldwide Ham Radio, where we bring you conversations with the operators shaping the future of our hobby. Today I'm joined by Kris Kass ES7GM, better known in contests as ES7A. Kris comes from a remarkable four-generation ham radio family in Estonia with a story that stretches back to Soviet-era operating restrictions and forward to building his own contest station from the ground up. From learning CW at age 6 to posting some big scores in contests, Kris has carved out a path that blends technical know-how, station innovation, and a genuine love of radio sport. Before we get started, a quick thank you to DX Engineering for supporting Q5 Worldwide Ham Radio. Their CEO, Tim Duffy, K3LR, is a strong advocate for sharing the human side of amateur radio, whether it's contesting, DXing, parks on the air, or building your first antenna. DX Engineering helps make these conversations possible. Kris, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So correct the last name so the audience can get it right. How is the actual pronunciation?
Well, the Estonian way of saying it is Kass, which, by the way, means cat. So the last name is a cat.
And as you mentioned, you're in Estonia. Tell me where in Estonia you are.
In central part of Estonia, it's probably one of the smallest ham-populated region here. It's a Viljandimaa region, which is, some say south, I'd say center of Estonia.
And you have a very rich ham radio family background. I usually start with how people got licensed, but I really want to begin with that family background. I believe at least your father, your sister, maybe your grandfather. Tell me about the background.
I mean, it all started deep in the Soviet time, where my grandfather, ES7 Golf Tango, I believe it was in early 60s when he was finally able to get his first call sign, which of course back then was like heavily regulated and observed, and there was, as far as I remember, there was really no outside contact because in the 60s, the Iron Curtain was quite real, and everything was like, let's say, even when you were able to hear someone outside of the region, you couldn't work them. So that was one way of, getting the touch of what was going outside back then. And after that, when my father was born, then he, of course, got into the business, Arne ES7 Golf November. And when I was born, it was quite obvious that I was born in the system, and it was pretty much straightforward from there.
So tell me about your father's ham radio background, and certainly your grandfather also, but what was it like to be a ham radio operator during the Soviet period in Estonia?
I mean, it was different because, like I said, probably the late 50s, early 60s, it was more strict, and people were not allowed to, have any contact outside of the region. And when my father got his, actually the truth is, he got his license quite late, and he was using some local radio club call signs at some point. But I would say late 70s, early 80s, it was much more better already. And of course, then you were able to hear those different Soviet region stations already during those CQ Worldwide contests and etc. So for him, it was definitely much more easier. But the main issue, of course, was having those transceivers in the first place, because back then everyone actually had to build their own transceivers. It could have been also that they had a receiver, so they needed the transmitting part to it. And since there was not too much information back in the day, it was pretty much let's build something and let's see what happens.
And I'm just doing the math, but it looks as though you were probably born after the Soviet era when Estonia had its independence. Is that correct?
No, I was actually still born in the Soviet era in 1989, but we did regain our independence in 91. So I was about 2 years old when there was Estonia as a country again.
So I wasn't too far off. So in your childhood, you really didn't have that Soviet era experience. You heard stories from your grandparents and your parents.
Yes and no, because the early 90s like I'd say in the whole Eastern Bloc, when we regained our independence together with let's say Latvia and Lithuania, it was I can't say it was a mess, but it was definitely hard times, and there was still this Soviet mentality among people. But let's say over those 30 something years, it has definitely gotten better. But childhood overall, I mean, it was for me, yes, it was. I'd say it was fun.
So, Kris, tell me now about your ham radio experience. You've grown up in this family. There's ham radio equipment around. When did you first decide this might be a fun pursuit?
When did I decide? There is probably no sure answer to it, because when I was there's this photograph of me in I think it was in 1992. Me sitting behind the Russian-made transceiver, but I did start with just sitting next to my dad, listening him working. But since he was working mostly CW, I couldn't understand it, so it wasn't too much fun for me. But when I was I'd say 6 or maybe 7 years old, I started learning CW, and I remember my dad. He made this computer program back in the day that was transmitting those different letters, and it was for me to then start receiving them. And I can't say it took really long time to learn CW, but I wasn't fast either, so it was just knowing the letters. And from there, step by step, I started making those first QSOs. And I remember I was using also this local, the other call sign that our local club has, ES7 Whiskey Hotel. And I made my first calls, and I made my first contact in 1996, I believe. And it was the first contact for me was a CW contact. And I know it was a huge mess. It was this Scottish station, some Mike 0 or so. And after that, we do have those local contests. We call them the mini tests, you know, and they're only 1 hour long, or maybe back in the day it was an hour and a half, I think. And I did some SSB, not too many QSOs, but you know, Dad was guiding me through, and then at some point I felt like, okay, this is quite fun, you know.
Still very impressive doing your first CW contact at 7 years old. I'm not sure that many people can brag about that, so that's fantastic.
And it was with a straight key. It was a messy transmission, but I managed through it.
So tell me, eventually you really got hooked into contesting, and when did that light bulb go off that contesting was really the thing for you?
I would say probably I was, give or take, like 10, 11 years old, and those same mini test contests, or those 1 hour sprints that we have. At first, of course, the results were not too good, but like, you know, step by step, I was getting grip of it, like what needs to be done, and then I was starting questioning myself, like, okay, how are these guys doing better, or like how do they have more QSOs than I have? What do I have to do different? And then just I'd say practicing until I was. I don't really remember the year, but at some point I was already in SSB, at least. I was in top 3, and from there it felt quite natural. So it was just knowing who's out there, where to be, when to be. And we have the second contest in Estonia as well. It's this that we have worldwide contest. It's the Estonian Open contest, which is in April. And then it was only not the Estonian call signs, but like the local region as well. And I would say can't really remember, but I think I was 15 when I actually won the SSB category. So then I think this was the first time I felt like, okay, I'm not too bad doing the contesting, and how to like get better, and when should I start doing CW as a mixed category operator, and I'll take it like, let's say 15 years of age.
So at that point, were you still using the home station, or were you using other stations?
Well, there is this short period. I have to now go back to the history again. We did have at home this HF antenna. It was a 5-band 2-element quad, and maybe it was 3 elements and 10 meters. Because quads back then, it was much more easier to build, and there was much more theory about it. So it's easier to tune it and adjust it. Because let's say like in the 70s or 80s, yes, there were Yagi antennas, but they were not as popular and probably not as easy to build. So we had those HF antennas, and then there came this short period when we went higher bands, like 2 meters and 70 centimeters. So we took down the only HF antenna, and what I had was 80 meter and 40 meter wire antenna, plus those VU SHF antennas. But then, as those higher bands, is at some point it's fun to get like all those squares that needs to be worked around you. But as we all know, the VU SHF is like with limited distance. And then I got bored again, and I told Dad that, you know what, let's go back to HF. And then we started to build the first, I'd say, somewhat decent station with those Yagi antennas. But that was like in 2007, 2008, not before.
And at some point you were operating ES5 TV, and I think that you may have even entered the CQ Worldwide contest. Tell me about that phase.
Yes. So I think it was in 2009. Well, it was actually before, but I was at the end of my high school, and they've been actually inviting me to work with them because, well, of course, ES5 TV back used to do a lot of single operations as well, but at some point we started gathering there and do those multi-category contests, and they invited me already when I was in high school, but I don't know why I didn't go there back then. But in 2009 was the first time I went to see Tõnno Station, and I mean, it is huge. That is probably one of the... I've been around, not too much, but I would say this is one of the greatest station there is out there. It's just amazing, all the flexibility that there is, the possibilities, like it's enormous, literally enormous. And in 2009, I went for this 160, I think it was CQ Worldwide 160 for the first time. And then, the opportunities came, and I remember it was like 2010 or 11, where Tõnno was catching his WRTC points, and as he's good friends with Ranko for Oscar 3 Alpha, he went to Ranko station, so his station was left wide open. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to give it a try. And he was kind enough to let me do it.
When you say ES5 TV was enormous, tell me more about that. Tell me the specifics. What was there and what is there now?
Oh, yeah, there's like God knows how many towers. But and most of you probably have seen this huge beast on 15 meters where you have this double H frame, like 8 times 5 elements only for 15 meters. That's you need to like see it with your own eye, otherwise you wouldn't believe it. But back then, there has been pictures online somewhere. One tower fell down. That was, I think it was some 60-meter tower that had 3 elements on 80 meters, for example. That came down. But it's in my opinion, it's not only about having those towers, but the station flexibility overall, that you can adjust it to single operations, multi-singles, multi-two, multi-multi. We have those in-band positions. And everything works as it should work. Of course, yes, there are some, maintenance to do, and sometimes something breaks. But other than that, it's definitely the station flexibility. So you can switch everything fast. You can be where you need to be, have the correct antennas, etc. So it's something you need to experience yourself. Because as a comparison, I've been to several other stations, and let's say I was in 2012. I went to Echo Alpha 8. And when I got there, of course, Canary Islands, it's basically a hotspot, And I went to the station. We had a nice crew there. And I was looking at those antennas. It's like, okay, you only have like 4 elements here and 4 elements there. And like, that's it, because I was used to having, Tõnno station. And that's the thing I always tell people, because, normally most of you don't really realize how much north we are. We're like latitude 59 north, which is approximately the same as you have like Anchorage in Alaska. And now imagine having every single multi record. Let's take North American multi records. I think there's only one record from Alaska. All the other ones are from the U.S. southern regions. Or better yet, imagine having all the multi-category records from Canada. It's you don't have that. So this is why we need to have those huge antennas, and this is why It's hard. It's sometimes really hard. When the aurora hits, there is nothing to do. There literally is nothing to do, and you can hear those southern European stations just going through the US, and it is what it is.
So is ES5TV a club station, or is it owned by an individual?
No, it is owned by an individual, ES5 Tango Victor. So yeah, he started building it, I think, in early 2000s, and the first tower came up. The first bigger tower, I think it was in 2003, I believe, and from there he started improving it every year. Of course, there has been some, delays, and sometimes you need to do some other stuff in life. But nevertheless, he has invested there a lot, and it's of course it's easy to put up those towers, but the other part is to maintain everything, and that's the hardest part, I think.
So do I understand it correctly that became your go-to contest station for a period of
Yes.
time, both as a single op and multi-op, both?
Yes, I've done some single ops from there. Also, multi operations we did a few years in a row. We started with multi-single, then went directly to multi-multi as Echo Sierra 9 Charlie's, I believe, currently holding all the multi-multi records in Europe right now, plus in CQ Worldwide contests, both WPX and CQ Worldwide. So we should have one multi-single Europe record, and this year the guys managed to get multi-2 record as well, I hope, if the score stands. So yeah.
So tell me about the transition to ES7A.
Before that, I probably have to go back to 2008 because when I came back down from the higher frequencies, to HF, I started building all the antennas myself. And as I'm located in the center of our village, the garden is not too big, so. The idea was to try myself, build myself, test it myself, so I get the whole of it, what needs to be done or how everything works, etc. Plus, of course, then the station building. I think it was in 2010 when I eventually went for 2 radios. I bought all the necessary stuff, all the filters and whatnot. So I went with those monoband Yagis, one for each band. Plus then wires on the lower bands, and I started practicing. But since I have the comparison with the ES5 TV station, I knew that I was never going to be that big. Since I don't have room, I'm surrounded by households, and the QRM was always an issue because as of today, living in this, I'd say it's not really a suburban area, but still it's a small village, and you have these days you have those solar panels and heat pumps, and those devices create a lot of QRM. So I was using my own station for, let's say, 10, maybe 12 years, but I started to think, where else could I move everything, and where else could I have higher antennas, higher towers, and luckily for me, the ES7 Alpha station where it is located now, it has been there for 40 years, and it's actually a Viljandi Radio Club station place, I would say. But as it stood like it was for some 30 years, because as I mentioned, early 90s, it was a strange period. There, everything was broken, everything was stolen from there, so it was just there. And in late, I'd say in late 2017, early 2018, I started to figure out, okay, this is probably the place that I could go and start building my own station there.
So you bought that property?
No, it's actually used by Viljandi Radio Club, and officially it should be owned by Viljandi Radio Club. But as those sadly everyone gets old, and some of the local hams have passed away, so there was no one to take care of it. So we said that okay, I'm gonna take care of this place. I have quite a lot of local hams helping me with all my crazy projects that comes to mind, and they're just part of the team. So the land wise, it's owned by the Radio Club, but everything else has been built there by me and the people that help me.
So I guess I'm trying to understand the motivation. You already have access to this megastation, ES5TV. Why bother creating another station?
Well, the main reason is I can't go there always, like every time I want to, because it's still owned by ES5 TV, and let's say if we're catching those WRTC points, and if Tõnu finds motivation to go there himself, then I don't have a station. But building ES7A, the main idea is there is no point of competing with ES5 TV station. I've been trying to keep it as simple as possible, as cheap as possible. Most of the antennas I've made myself. I do have some factory antennas too, but everything is probably self-made. Plus, for example, even those towers. The towers I bought, they were actually rusty, old Soviet era towers. They needed to be sand brushed, then painted, just to see if the sections are bent or not. So it's basically step by step, just trying to be as cheap as possible. And the idea has never been to compete with ES5 TV station, but to have something for me or for the locals to use.
So tell me specifically what is there at ES7A today, tower-wise, antenna-wise?
Well, the poorest situation is on 160 right now. I do have this wire vertical, and I have this delta loop on 160. And the main reason why I don't have Foursquare on 160 is that there's not enough land for that. So it's in the future. I've had some plans. There will be probably 3 verticals that I can face together and switch the directions, but they will be probably a bit shortened versions, not the full height. On 80 meters, I have wire vertical. I have Foursquare full size, which is with elevated radials, because there are a lot of theories on the internet, and since ES5 TV has it on the ground, I decided, you know what, I'm going to go with the elevated radials version. So basically what I have is I have 4 verticals and a spider web around it. So each vertical has 16 or something radials. So it looks like a spider web. And we did some comparisons, but of course, compared to Tõnu, I have a higher ground and I have perfect takeoff to every direction, because the ES7A location is the highest ground nearby. So it's there is nothing in front of me. When you're there, you can see US direction is free, JA station is JA direction. So I have 80 meters that Foursquare, and I'd say it was a bit better towards US than the one that Tõnu has lying on the ground. Then on where was I? Okay, 80. Of course, I have this 4-element Yagi on 80, but it's a wire Yagi, so it's not too high. But those 4 elements actually work quite fine. I can feel the difference compared to single element. On 40 meters, I have 3 elements. I have actually 2 3-element antennas plus a 2-element antenna. And from there up to 10 meters, I have different stacks.
So one of the things that you said about ES5 TV was that it was very flexible. Are you building ES7A so it's also flexible, single op, multi-single, multi-op?
It will be single op mostly, because I'm the main user there. But we have also tried some multi-single contests too. We did, I think it was 3 years ago, we did CQ Worldwide SSB low power. We tried the first multi-single contest from there, and it was fine. It was completely fine. Everything worked as it should, and all the those who gets what antenna, what direction, what band, all the filters, everything was working. For multi-2, probably it's not meant for multi-2, but single op and multi-single for sure. It's not an issue.
And what are the most recent contests that you've been operating from there?
It was CQ Worldwide CW. Yes, I decided not to go to ES5 TV because I wanted to try 15 meters. I did 15 meters only a few years ago, and since the propagation has been quite fine, I was thinking that maybe I could push the old record even more. Sadly, Saturday was amazing. Saturday was US booming till our local midnight and beyond. But Sunday, on the other hand, Sunday faded, and faded heavily. So those last last hours were a disaster, and there was no decent US opening on Sunday. So I did beat my old record, but by only a margin.
So do you prefer the single band categories?
I don't know. I'd rather go all bands, but since the WRTC points collection is now over, I decided to give it a try on some single bands before I get my last tower up, because I still have it. There is one tower already ready. I have all the material for those antennas that I'm going to have. It just takes some time now to get everything ready. Plus, I need to maybe find some decent cables because I'm running out of the coax. But before I get my last tower up, I'm probably, we'll see. I can do single ops, all bands, single bands. I can go multis. But there are certain contests that I definitely would always like to go all bandies, those CQ Worldwide, especially CQ Worldwide CW, then it's always fun.
And do you have a preference, phone versus CW, or either?
The locals here, the older hams normally say that they used to be SSB guys a lot until they got tired of talking too much, so they shifted to CW, and I'm about to feel the same. I mean, SSB is fine, just perfectly fine, but Monday morning after the contest, it's everyone knows how it feels, so it's much more interesting to I mean, it's much more better to go for CW. But since there was this discussion some time ago, and I think it was on your channel, I was watching one of the videos you had with N6MJ and KL9A about doing SSB 2 PSIQ, which I started to train because I have this I'm not going to use the word ability, it would be wrong, but I can listen while I talk. So, for example, when I'm talking to you, I can listen whatever is, let's say, on my right ear, and I can receive whatever was said. So I can somewhat do SSB2 PSIQ, and if we take I think it was last year. Yes, it was last year. In July we have this IARU contest. Yes, IARU contest. I started because I know ES7DX and Charlie Radio 6 Kilo started doing CW 2 PSIQ. I decided to go SSB 2 PSIQ. And if I remember correct, then the first hour I had like 357 QSOs running on 10 and 15, and the second hour I had some 250 per hour. But then, like, as I live too much up north, the pace faded, and it was. But by then, I was doing like 350 first hour is great result, I believe, and I was like some 100 up to 150 QSOs ahead. But since the propagation faded, then it was time to move to CW.
Well, Kris, that's certainly an impressive ability or skill to have. I don't think everybody can do that. I'm married to somebody who can actually listen to 7 conversations while she's talking to me, and I can ask her specifics and she gets it right, but I do not have that ability, so that's amazing. You've mentioned WRTC a couple times. Have you been yet?
I was actually invited the first time in 2014 when it was in Boston. It was a very late invitation because, as I remember correctly, it should have been ES5 Radio Yankee going there because he got the spot, but something happened and he gave it to one of our Latvian friends who constantly visit the ES5 TV station. And he asked me to be his teammate, but it was I already had something else booked by the time, so I wasn't even in the country. I was away doing some other things. I tried to collect those points for 2018, but not too seriously. And 2022, since also ES5 TV, or actually it wasn't even ES5 TV, it was ES2 Radio, working from ES5 TV station, got the point. So they changed the rule that there can be only one team from the country. And since they had more points than there was, I wasn't able to keep up with their score made from ES5 TV station. But 2022, I was invited there as a referee. Yet again, sadly, I wasn't able to go. But now this time in 2026, I already have all the points and I have secured my place in WRTC from Europe, one region.
Congratulations. Who will your teammate be?
I will go with my Latvian friend Kris Kass ES7GM. We spoke about it, and we actually spoke about it like 6 years ago that someday we will go. I remember I met Kriss in 2013, yes, more than 10 years ago. They started this Youngsters on the Air campaign here in Europe, which has now grown into quite serious thing. We have those YOTA contests or YOTA contests, and we have in December you can hear those YOTA suffixes all over the HF bands, and he was actually participating from Latvia. We met there, and ever since we've been getting along quite well. So yeah, I'm going with Kris Kass.
That's fantastic. And I didn't realize there was a connection. I've actually interviewed him.
You did. Yeah. I remember he even told me that there is this big video coming, and I was like, oh, what is it going to be?
So one of the things I find interesting about this conversation is your age. And I'm guessing you're mid-30s. There's so much conversation about ham radio operators getting older. And it's interesting, in my travels and the people I talk to, I'm finding more and more young people like Kriss and yourself. Do you find that to be the case in Estonia? Are you unusual at your age, or are there others?
How much time do we have?
Well, I have plenty of time.
Very good. I think it's probably everywhere the same, that the overall age is getting higher in ham radio overall. It's and the first option always is those relatives, someone's sons, daughters, or like maybe even some friends' kids or so. But when the COVID started in 2020, was it? Yes, it was 2020. We came up with this idea since back then I was the president of Estonian Radio Amateur Union for two periods. So it was total of 6 years. I was also the president of Estonian Radio Amateur Union, and we started those online exams. And the main idea is there is no point of punish those youngsters who actually want to be involved or want to find out what ham radio is all about. So we have those online exams, and we also have a possibility, for example, let's say in our capital region, if you pass the exam, we can actually, we're not like telling you all the answers, but we're guiding you what you need to pay attention to in order to get the right answer, because otherwise you won't learn. It's like there is no point of saying that no, you did it wrong, you won't get that license. That's not the idea. We need to get more people involved, so they can actually practice in Tallinn area, for example, or here in ES7A station if needed. We have those 5 to 6 regions here in Estonia where every newcomer can just go and see what ham radio is really about. And the COVID era was good. Those online exams, not only youngsters, we got a lot of new 30, 40, 50-year-olds as well. But I must say that over the, let's say, 5-year period, we have about 20 to maybe even 25 new young ham operators, and they're not all sons and daughters of ham radio operator. They're completely new to the hobby. So it's good that something is working. Of course, we need to push a lot more, but I would say 25 new youngsters over the 5-year period. I believe it's very good.
And are you seeing any common thread between those 20 people? What is the motivation primarily? Is it camaraderie? Is it this interest in radio itself, the technical part, building? What is it?
I can't really say, because for me, I purely love contesting. There are a lot of guys who building, soldering, making something out of a tiny device and whatnot. I don't even collect the XSC. I honestly don't know how much I have worked, how much there is to work anymore. So it's purely contesting for me. But what comes about camaraderie, or once they are in this system, or they have this first I'm not sure what's the word in English, but when they get the sense of it, it's like, okay, this is actually quite interesting, and I want to explore more. That's where we know that we got them now. I work as every day I work as a psychologist, and I've seen over the 30-year period, even the older ones, that they come. And even if they like fade at some point, you need to build your career, and children needs to grow, etc. But they will always come back, and I'm more than positive that even if you're like gone for some time or for some period, then you will eventually find your old transceiver from the basement or from the attic, and you will be back. So once you get a sense of it or the hold of it, you will definitely stick to it.
So just moving backwards a little bit, I'm curious about your dad and your sister. Are they still active?
Yes, my dad is active. My sister is somewhat active since she lives now in the capital region, and she actually did this Estonian Open contest in April. I specifically called her and said, it's time to come home. I will set the station ready, and she did good. I think she ended up top 4 in SSB category, so not too bad. My dad is, I haven't made any single FT8 or FT4 or any of those digital modes, but my dad is constantly remotely logged into the station and working some FT8 and whatnot. But I also have a nephew, and my nephew has 2 sons, and one of the sons already has a call sign. So my nephew's son actually is now a 4th generation ham radio operator. So yeah, and fun fact is that before I was born, my mom actually knows CW too, and she learned the CW. And she was, back in the day, she was able to receive at slow speed, but I'm not sure if she can do it anymore.
Kriss, you have a very impressive story, and I'm looking forward to hearing more from you over the years. And I've also got to add, I think ham radio needs more psychologists, so I think it's a great combo. Thank you for joining me today.
Yes, thanks for having me, and it was I was surprised that you reached out to me. So yeah, thanks for this lovely little interview, and hopefully we can catch up some other time as well.
Absolutely. My name is Kevin Thomas, W1DED. I've been talking to Kris ES7GM. You've heard him on the air in contests as ES7A, and you will hear a lot from him in the future. Thanks for joining me.